Good afternoon.
Hi, Anubhav. Good afternoon. Welcome. We'll start your interview now.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Over to Sunil, sir.
Let Meenakshi sir start.
Okay, I'll start. No problem. Anubhav, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. You are hearing me?
Yes, sir. I am hearing you. Good afternoon, sir.
Very good. You are from Southwest Delhi or from Chamoli? Which is your place?
Sir, my birthplace is Chamoli, but I am a resident of Southwest Delhi.
Okay. So you belong to the Uttarakhand district, state,
Yes.
correct?
Yes, sir. Uttarakhand.
Now, tell me, there was a recent change of chief minister in the Uttarakhand state.
Yes,
What
sir.
is the reason for that? Can you tell me?
So the main reason is there are internal party factions which results in political instability. The earlier chief minister, Triveni Singh, he was changed because of there were accusations that he is centralizing the powers. This one because of the constitutional crisis that he could not be elected within 6 months, so he resigned before that, and the new chief minister was.
No. Under the Constitution of India, Anubhav, are you listening to me?
Yes,
Am I
sir.
audible to you now? Okay.
Yes, sir.
No,
Yes,
my
sir.
question is, can the governor of Uttarakhand invite you
Yes, sir.
to form the government tomorrow morning? Are you eligible?
Yes, sir. The governor has the power to invite any person if he feels that the person who is elected does not shows the confidence of the party members, but he has to get elected within 6 months.
But are you eligible to become the chief minister of Uttarakhand?
No, sir.
You are not. Why?
There are minimum age criteria is also there.
What is the minimum age?
Sir, I think it is 30.
Okay. And that is the only criteria, is it? There is nothing else to become the chief minister of a state.
So he has
You should be within the age limit.
So he has also to be registered as voter within that state.
Okay. Do you remember any prime minister of India who has not been a member of either house of the parliament?
So I think he was Inder Kumar Gujrani was not the house of Congress.
Then who else?
So it was in 90s.
Okay. Should he be a member of the Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha?
So he can be either a member of Lok Sabha or a Rajya Sabha or neither of them. But he has to get elected in 6 months in the parliament.
Okay. Now, do you know anything about Dr. Manmohan Singh? When he became the Prime Minister of India, what was he?
So
Okay. Okay, let us leave that. Can you name some 2 or 3 problems of Uttarakhand state?
So there is first an economic problem, that is there is no manufacturing industry going there, and there is too much reliance on tourism. The second is there are ecological problems, as we have seen. It is witnessing too much disasters, and there is a geological reason, and there is also anthropological reason. For example, dams are being constructed. There is also a problem of out migration, and when we see out migration, it is resulting in altered sex ratio and sucking upon the human resources of that area.
So what will you do to preserve the ecology of this area? What are your suggestions to improve the ecological situation in Uttarakhand?
So if we see, most of the ecological crisis is exacerbated by the dams, and we do not require such huge electricity yet. There are many big dams that are constructed. If we want to focus on the tourism industry, then we can use solar energy from the other states. If we want to focus on manufacturing, then small MSMEs could be promoted. For example, the poultry industry and the dairy industry is very important, which require very less energy. So if these solar energy is promoted, then it will result in less ecological disasters.
Now, tell me, why was the Uttarakhand removed from Uttar Pradesh? The state was broken into two. What was the purpose at that time when Uttarakhand was created?
It was an ethnic movement because the Uttarakhand people thought that we are different from the UP, and there was also economic reasons that there was perception that most of the resources are being diverted to the UP. That's why there was a regional movement that emerged, and it finally led to emergence of Uttarakhand as a separate state.
Now, over the years, have we achieved that purpose or we haven't achieved that?
So we are moving in that direction, but it is a little bit slow. The major problem here is that there is another problem that is being added. It is climate change was not there at that time. And we are also not focusing on the contextual development activities. We are mostly using one size fits all approach. If we promote the specific industry, organic farming, there is also a huge scope for medicinal plant growth. So these things are not looked at. One size fits all approach is used, but the things are going in that direction.
Okay. One last question. After Uttarakhand, the remaining Uttar Pradesh, in your view, should continue as such, or that can be broken into smaller states?
I think Uttar Pradesh could be broken into smaller states. If you look at the Bundelkhand profile, then it can be broken, but there would be few challenges that we have to look at. We have to, again, when we break the area into 2 states or 3 states, then we have to again use only that economic development activity, which is different from the other. That means we have to accept a contextual development approach in all the regions. It would be a good idea to begin with.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Anubhav, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear.
Anubhav, you are a student of sociology, correct?
Yes, sir.
Anubhav, the caste hierarchy is very clearly, somebody is a Brahmin, somebody is a Kshatriya, I mean, very broadly speaking.
Yes.
Can you tell me about a hierarchy within a caste?
Hierarchy within a caste.
Yeah.
Sir, there are in South India, I have read that there are.
Anubhav, can you bring the mic closer to you? You are difficult to hear.
Sir,
Yeah.
So there are hierarchies within the Brahmin itself. When Srinivas was studying South India, then he saw that the Brahmins are divided into 3 different categories, and they are hierarchically arranged and separated by a pollution purity notion that one of them is above, other one is below that, and there is a perception that exists there. And all over India, the Varna is a broad framework, and caste is the actual jati that operates. So we have talked about 4 Varnas, but the caste are around.
Can a so-called untouchable caste Sanskritize itself into a much higher caste like Brahmins?
Sir, this was historically seen that the so-called untouchable caste, they were adopting the customs, beliefs, practices of the Brahmin caste, but it was not an easy process. It was a 3-generation, 4-generation process. But now what has happened is, after we have adopted the reservation policy, all of these has come to stop because they've done it the lower caste. They are adopting an assertion policy because their benefit, realistically speaking, their benefit lies in assertion of that only because they will get economic and political opportunities. So Sanskritization has stopped right now, but slower.
All right. You are still not very clear, but my last question to you. Now, certain castes are supposed to do certain kinds of tasks. For example, the so-called untouchable caste will do very menial kind of jobs, handling dead bodies, etc. A Brahmin is not supposed to do that kind of work, going by the caste hierarchy, correct?
Yes, sir.
And yet you find Brahmins in cremation grounds who pray for the dead. Now, explain the presence of a Brahmin handling dead bodies in a cremation ground.
That is the biggest criticism of the caste system, because what the earlier sociologists were saying was adopting a book view that you earlier said. But in the ground reality, the book view is not followed. That is, pollution purity exists, but it is only seen in division of labor tasks. For example, there was recent in 1986 Banwari Devi case where she was a Dalit woman and she was raped by Rajput caste. And so the Supreme Court rejected the whole rape case that a Brahmin, a Rajput cannot rape a Dalit woman. But actually it happened. So in ground reality, these kind of things really happen, and it is different from the book view that the hierarchy is strictly arranged.
Now, my last question, the Brahmins who work in cremation grounds call themselves Mahabrahmins. Why?
I do not know, but I think that because they're associated with the end of the life, so maybe
It's because according to them, anybody who dies, whether it is a Brahmin or anybody else, will ultimately have to come to them. So that's why Brahmins. Thank you. Hello, sir.
Anubhav, can you hear me?
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Am I audible?
Good afternoon. No, you are not audible. That's why I'm asking you. I mean, you're not clearly audible.
I'm audible now. Right?
You need to do something. Otherwise, you are talking well. I can feel it, but I am not able to really.
Exactly what General Halur is saying. You are talking
Sir.
well. You are answering well, but the hearing is a problem.
Sir, I have changed the mic right now. I'm audible right now.
Now
Now
it's better.
Now
Sir,
it's better.
I changed the mic. I think
Now it's
Yeah,
better.
you-
Go
you are
ahead. Go
much
ahead, Halur.
better.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
sir.
Anubhav, I learned that you are Fauji's son. Is that right?
Yes, right, sir.
Okay. My first question is, your father, even now, post-retirement, he is working with DSC.
Yes, sir.
Surely there is some gap in the way the ex-servicemen are looked after, and obviously he did not visualize any better job, so that's why he decided to join DSC, and that is the case with many others. At least he's fortunate he has joined DSC. There are other soldiers who end up not getting anything at all. They have to depend on the meager pension.
Yes, sir.
Is there a deficit in what is required to be done with this trained manpower post-retirement? And should you be in the Ministry of Defense as one of the secretaries, or even as a joint secretary, what would be that you would want to do to ameliorate their condition?
So I think the first is that the pension that they get is not up to the mark. So it can be increased as per the growing inflation or other economic standards, because sometimes this COVID-19 crisis, it depressed the middle classes. So accordingly it can be changed. I think their experience could be used in other things also, in maintaining the internal security affairs. I think it could be used.
No, considering that there is a large outflow of pension
Yes.
to the ex-servicemen,
Yes, sir.
and in any case, there will be a wide gap. You see, now you're still aspiring, you're studying, and your father is already out of employment. That doesn't happen with other services. So, in view of that, can the ministry or can the government do something to skill them up and also to employ them, ensure that there are better avenues for their employment going forward?
Sir, I think the age of retirement could be increased up to 5 or 10 years, so that the skill could be, because they are retired at 40 or 50.
No, is that the solution for a force which is supposed to remain fighting fit and ready to combat at all times? Can you have a elderly people? What is the difference between the other police services and the military? If you are going to be as old as them, then your competence and your output will be similar.
Yes, sir. Sir, I feel that
Okay, let's leave past this question. I find that you are a student of, you are aspiring to be in the foreign service, is that right?
Yes, sir, right, sir.
Okay. It is 50 years since the time the relationship between US and China normalized after the visit of Henry Kissinger, then the security advisor.
Yes.
What was the purpose for which there was a sudden turn of policy of the US, and what is the net result of it as it stands today?
Sir, I think it was the Cold War, which was, there were various theaters of Cold War that was being played at Vietnam. Initially, it was played at South Korea. So US thought that if we diffuse one front of the communism, that is China, then they start talking. There was a thaw on Cold War. So I think then it proceeded in that direction. But what happened was that too much appreciatory policies, what it did was China became the largest second largest superpower, and US was literally doing nothing. It was US's idea that if we have good relations with China, then it would proceed in the right direction, but it ignored the human rights, the economic priority taking place. So I think these are the consequences of.
You're right. I mean, yeah. I mean, you answered it. Okay. Now tell me, US, the erstwhile USSR, now Russia, normalized its relationship with China and ensured that their border dispute is settled, and thereafter, the relationship between USSR and China has improved for the better.
Yes, sir.
Whereas similar normalization in China, in case of US has failed. Why do you think that happened?
Sir, if we see historically what had happened was that at that time it was the larger power, that is USSR, that took a first step behind, and China was at that time smaller power. In India's case, China is not ready to step back. It was also followed at second point that they were also followed by some written agreements, and they were enforceable at that time. In India, there is only 1993 agreement that exists right now, that is not binding. And thirdly, it is also need to be seen in the circumstances that exist. Both were facing a threat from US, but in India and China's case, there is no such external threat as if.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Gautam, are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Yeah.
Anubhav,
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
what are your thoughts on neighbor first relationship policy?
I think it is being working very well, but there are some structural challenges in these neighborhood first policy. Nepal has been showing the China card to India, and it is inevitable because Nepal is a smaller power and it is a buffer state between India and China. Similarly, Bhutan also, although it is more closer to India, but China is making roads also there. In Sri Lanka's case, we are seeing that China has given massive debt, and Sri Lanka is also shifting towards that. But we cannot leave this neighborhood policy because ultimately these all are smaller powers, and if we do any, like we did in Nepal 2015 blockade, any geopolitical issue if we raise, then they will go more close to China. So what we have to do is implement our projects better, in community engagement, etc. This is all we can do. But neighborhood first policy, we should implement it.
Okay, Taliban having capturing the major part of Afghanistan, what do you think India's stand should be?
I feel that India has been too late on engaging with Taliban because many powers earlier they were on the table with Taliban and India. Now it is also, today it was the meet between Ashraf Ghani and our external minister, and still he was saying that we support Afghan government when it is on the fall. So India's policy should be first to engage with all sections of Afghan society, and Taliban is also a part of this society. Second, a major interest in this region rise of Russia, China, and India, and we should cooperate with all these powers. We also see that third, Turkey is making roads into Afghanistan. It also has more closer. It is also more closer to Afghanistan. So we should also do something with the Turkey community, engage with Turkey, so that things could be changed.
Okay. There is a lateral entry of various specialists into the civil services.
Yes.
What are your thoughts about it?
Lateral entry is a good thing to start with. The only threat is to the employment of those who are aspiring. But if we see in reality, lateral entry is a very good step because they are specialists who are there. There would be less security of tenure. They would be winning more, and because their expertise, they're experts, so they would be implementing more better projects than right now what we are doing. But for this, we have to increase the age of those who are in the lateral entry, because they join the other private jobs. We also have to put them in the critical industry like finance. What we are seeing is that lateral entry is in the sidelines ministry. And finally, the lateral entrants are also retiring. There have been 3 lateral entrants, and 2 of them have already retired. So if we implement these 3 points in lateral entry, it would be a better step.
Fine, Anubhav. Sir, anybody else to ask?
I'll just ask one question because of something you said. You said that experts will give expert inputs. Maybe because they are specialized, they might perform better in technical sectors.
Yes.
Are you trying to tell me that a doctor will make a better health secretary than me?
So I think the health, if we see all over the world, then they have taken only doctors as health secretaries. No,
So
sorry,
that's
health.
not my question. I am saying that whether a doctor will make a better health secretary than me or Meenakshi Sundaram, sir.
Sir, I feel that a doctor would make, because he specialized in that task.
Well, he specializes in treating people. He does not specialize in health policy, does he?
Yes, sir. But ultimately policy is required expert inputs, and if,
All right, I'll let it pass. Gurcharan sir, would you like to ask something?
Yeah, Anubhav, I see that you've done your BTech, right?
yes,
But now you want to become a generalist civil servant.
yes, sir.
Now, one of the debates in the country is that given India's development trajectory, whether people like you who are well-trained engineers should actually be joining a generalist service, or should you actually be going into a more specialized, knowledge-based avenue? What is your view? How do you think your engineering skills can come useful in civil service?
Sir, ultimately, if we see, we have done engineering, so that knowledge could be applied in civil services also. I have learned many things from engineering, and one of them is I was working in website development course, PHP, and the other backend programs. So this could be used in the civil services, where the government is moving towards digital India. So we already know something about that. So it is a good point. Similarly, many other skills are some are trained in AI, deep neural engineering. So government is also moving towards that, and those skills could be used in policy making.
Let's say you are posted as subdivision magistrate in Bolangir in Orissa,
Yes, sir.
where there is no electricity, there's no internet connectivity, there is no remote telephony. Then what use are all your engineering skills that you spoke about now, about website development, etc.? You just need to work closely with the tribals, go to the villages, provide them drinking water, provide them medical care, etc., or ensure prevention of crime. How do you think in such a scenario you are going to be able to use your engineering skills? Isn't it a waste?
So from engineering, not only skills, but also I have learned other things also. For example, at personality level, how group tasks are. I have done multiple projects, and in that there are group tasks. So if even these kind of soft skills we can use if there is no such kind of technical skills used.
Yeah, but soft skills are available even with those who are non-engineering students, right?
Yes, sir.
Meaning those who did just a social science degree or a humanities degree will probably have better soft skills than hard skills that an engineer has.
Yes, sir.
So can you give me one practical use of your knowledge as an engineer that you might be able to apply in any one sector, either health or education or law and order management?
Sir, I cannot. Sir, I do not know.
Sorry, what is that?
Sir, I cannot say about it.
All right. Tell me this, in your experience as a student,
Yes, sir.
have you ever faced a challenge or a difficult situation where you had to take the leadership position or initiative to resolve that issue or problem? Can you briefly tell us what you did if you faced such a situation?
Sir, I play football, so I have done a lot of things in that are required for leadership. I've been involved in the team selection. I've been involved in team activities. There are some scenarios where we specifically need to give some tasks to others so that the task is performed well. So I
Okay,
think-
last question. Last question. In the recent Eurozone final,
Yes,
England lost in the penalties, right? Penalty shootout.
yes,
That was followed by a lot of racism, racist, vitriolic social media reaction to the failure or those who failed to score the penalties, right?
yes, yes, sir.
Can you tell us about this and how you might relate similar conditions to Indian society?
Sir, these things also happen in Indian society when
No, what happened there, first of all? Why did the racism start?
so England lost by 4-3, and the 3 penalties they were lost by all black players: Marcus Rashford, Saka, and Bukayo.
Okay.
And these players were those.
No, so how is it relevant to India? How do we experience similar kind of situations?
In sports, we have seen when India lost World Cup, there were attacks on the cricket players. But talking about the racism in India, racism or discrimination exists along the caste lines. And when we see that the Dalits or the lower caste, they get social mobility and go in the IITs or the bureaucracy, then they also face discrimination from those who are above them. So here there is a victory and there is a discrimination. In that case also there was similar kind of thing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, your feedback session now, Anubhav. And over to Meenakshi Sundaram, sir.
Anubhav, to start with, I find that your performance is good. You are very well dressed and you understand the questions, respond to them properly. All that is on the positive side. On the negative side, I find that you are very fast in giving the response. See, please realize the people who are putting the questions to you are invariably going to be senior citizens. They may not be able to follow your speed. So I would request you first to reduce the speed and go a little slow while answering. The second point is, when you do not know the answer, better to say you do not know the answer rather than making a guess, because the guess will land you in trouble unless you are permitted to guess. Please do not guess your answers. Otherwise, you are all right. You are able to understand the questions. Please read what is happening in the country and in the international scene between now and your interview date. You will be able to answer the questions well. Wish you all the best. Good luck.
Thank you, sir.
Sunil, sir.
Anubhav, I couldn't hear you very clearly in the beginning. But I found your answers very meaningful, very thoughtful.
you,
Speed, as Meenakshi Sundaram sir said, reduce it a bit. I think Guptaran sir will tell you that we didn't ask you any questions on your detailed questions on your subject of study in college.
Yes.
So maybe brushing that up would do. Otherwise, my impression about you is very positive. You are very well spoken, well dressed. You understand things. Just slow down a bit. Barring that, I mean, I really have nothing negative to add. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All the best.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, sir.
Anubhav, I found your interview good. Your spark, you answered well. I just have one suggestion besides what has already been conveyed to you. When you are asked a question, obviously there are many questions where you don't have a ready-made answer. So give a little thought and formulate your ideas and then speak. It will be more effective, and speak a little more deliberately.
Thank you, sir.
Otherwise, you have a very high potential, and all the very best to you.
Sir, I wanted to ask, sir, what would be the army answer? What would be
Yeah,
the-
I'm from the, I retired from the army. That's why and you being from the military child, you should be little more conversant and be prepared to answer questions. I mean, there could be any panelist, by virtue of your background, he could be asking questions related to defense. Okay. So that is one thing that you may want to, besides your other affairs, your subject and the current affairs, that is one subject you might want to focus a little more on. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Guru Charan, sir.
I'll pass, Kavita, because I was, sort of in and out. I didn't quite follow the full interview. So I'll pass on to you.
Okay. Anubhav, I agree with my co-panelists. What I could observe in my course of interview was your voice was very low. So that is one thing I would suggest, that you please raise your voice, and then you can raise your voice means not in the literally term of raise your voice, but you can speak a little loud. Okay. And also you can smile when you're talking.
Okay. Okay.
All the best.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can draw.
Thank you.
Log off.